Hi, and welcome back to this tutorial series, where we're going to go over the various settings within Fantasy Grounds Unity in relation to configuring a given campaign. To do that, you're going to want to click on this Create Campaign button, and once you do that, you will get a window that looks like this. And as you can see, we have a number of configuration options, and I'm going to go over each of them in turn. One of the more important and least understood parts of creating a given campaign is its name. As a DM, this is going to be a really important identifier for you, especially if you're in the process of running through multiple campaigns with different groups. As a result, it's very important that the name given to the campaign relates to the campaign that you're running for each of those parties so that you can quickly load them when required. For someone new to Fantasy Grounds Unity, you might be asking, what do I mean by a campaign name? In this case, Fantasy Grounds Unity makes use of the campaign name for a few things, regardless of if you're creating your own campaign or loading a pre-built campaign module. The name of the campaign itself is essentially decoupled from the module you might be intending to run if you choose to set it up that way. Let's say, for example, the 5th edition D&D campaign called Horde of the Dragon Queen is what you're going to run a given party through. Well, you might go ahead and simply decide to call that My Campaign. The name that you put here doesn't necessarily relate to the module you're going to load within Fantasy Grounds once the system is up, because that's a separate step. But another option is you might just simply call it Horde of the Dragon Queen, seeing as it's a bit more descriptive and relates to the campaign that you're planning on running. However, let's say over time you've taken on running a second group and are now running two distinct parties through two different campaigns. Well, that's easy to do. You just name the new campaign something different that might relate to the module, say Curse of Strahd, for example. But what if you decide that Horde of the Dragon Queen is so good that you've chosen to forgo getting any other campaign and are now running 3 parties through 3 different instances of that campaign? You're not going to want to call all 3 of them Horde of the Dragon Queen. Actually, it's not even going to be possible because there's one piece of information I have not yet covered in relation to the name. The name you decide to use in this entry box is also going to become the name of the folder that will be created in your Fantasy Grounds Unity data folder that we covered in the Applications Settings series. Specifically, that folder will exist within the campaign's subfolder of your Fantasy Grounds data folder. This means that the underlying operating system is going to have some level of control over the creation of that folder, specifically in the case of case sensitivity, for example. I'd also advise against doing so, even if it is possible to take case sensitivity into account, because it can become very easy to confuse which campaign is which. A better approach might be to name the first campaign Horde of the Dragon Queen Friday session, for example, if you're holding it on Friday, while the second might be Horde of the Dragon Queen Saturday session, and so on. This will resolve any issues with confusion, as well as ensure your computer will be able to safely store the different campaigns appropriately and eliminate the chance one might clobber the other. It will also ensure that you can cleanly back up each campaign using whatever software you might want to use for that particular purpose. The final reason why it's important is because if you choose to make use of the Fantasy Grounds lobby facility to allow anyone to connect to a given campaign, your players will be able to identify which campaign they can connect to based on the names in the list. In addition, your players will be able to use the GM name that you have given them and match that up against the campaign that you've also told them, thus ensuring they're connecting to the right campaign. Plus, that will show up in their connection history, which means they'll be able to quickly identify which campaign they want to connect to based on the day that they're connecting. Now, before I move on to the next video, I'm going to go ahead and rename this to this simply because it will allow me to identify which campaign I will be using to explain all of this stuff. So with that, that covers everything I need to mention in relation to the name of the campaign itself. So let's move on to the next video.